Testing.
What the Hello, and welcome to my AMA. This is to celebrate reaching 5,000 subscribers. Thank you to everyone who has subscribed so far. I appreciate all the support, I appreciate all the nice comments, and I love hearing that the content that I make helps you guys, so thank you. Hopefully it is helpful and relevant and you enjoy watching it, it's entertaining. I mean, you wouldn't be subscribed otherwise if it wasn't, right? Smooth, Robyn. Nice one. I know I haven't posted in a while. That's because I had that virus that we prefer not to name, the one that's turned this entire world on its head. I barely ever leave my house, but my husband does go to work every day. I work from home. We all got it. We've been recovering for the past few weeks. It was tough, but we're all fine now. I haven't been vaccinated because I just don't qualify in my country yet. I'm just not old enough. They've been doing it from, older people downwards. So that is what it is. And plus we just had a third wave. It's been crazy. Also, there's been lootings and riots and stuff here. I'm in South Africa. Did I mention that? It's been a mad few weeks. And I'm just gonna answer your guys' questions. So thank you to everyone who sent a question in. I was legitimately sitting there thinking like, what if nobody sent in a question? Am I gonna have to make up questions? Or do I just not say anything and hope they forgot that I ever did this? But luckily, I got a shit ton of questions. So thank you to you guys for not leaving me hanging as well. So let's get into it before this video gets too long because there were a lot of them and I want to try and answer as many as possible. How and when did you get interested in animation? To elaborate, what age? Was it always an interest or something you found along the way from other hobbies or you fell into? Was there a particular moment in your life or piece of media that inspired you to go for it? Okay, real talk. I am not one of those people who always had a burning passion to be an animator. I didn't know that's what I wanted to be. There was a million things I wanted to be, like right up until I had to pick a college and a career. I didn't know what I wanted to do. I knew that I wanted to do something creative and with art involved because I loved drawing, I love art in general, creating anything. I love creating anything. Originally, I wanted to be an illustrator or a cartoonist or, a comic book artist, but I had no idea how to go about that. This was about how old am I? I don't even know. That was like 13 years ago, maybe 13, 14 years ago that I had to pick a college and decide what I wanted to do for the rest of my life as a job. So no, I didn't always know I wanted to be an animator. I basically just fell into it because I couldn't find any colleges I could go to on how to be an illustrator or a comic book artist. My mom insisted that I go to a college, so I had to pick a college. I was originally going to do a degree in fine arts. I'd applied, I was accepted, I was going to do it. And then I heard one day an ad on the radio for this animation course, a college that I could go to study animation. And that seemed a lot more fun to me than doing fine art. I was already a huge fan of animated content. I loved The Nightmare Before Christmas, Tim Burton. Like, seriously, I was a total Tim Burton stan. So I already loved animated content and I realized that this is something I could go to college for. And I was like, awesome, I'm gonna do that. Which softwares do you use and where do you live in South Africa? So at the moment, I would probably say that I use Blender the most for 3D because I use that at my job. I do still use 3ds Max and Maya myself personally because I love Maya for animation. And I started my animation journey in Maya for the first few years, but then I got a job at a studio where I had to use 3ds Max, so I had to swap over to that. And then again, I had to swap over again to Blender a bit later. For work, I just had to use it because that's what they were using. For motion graphics, 2D animation, special effects, compositing, stuff like that, I use After Effects. And I also use Premiere for editing, cutting together different scenes and stuff like that. I use Photoshop and Illustrator for artwork as well as Procreate. Sometimes I do some 2D animation in Procreate, like, frame by frame animation. It's pretty cool for short clips, but not for long form stuff. For sculpting, I prefer to use Mudbox. I'm just more comfortable in it. And as for where I live in South Africa, I live in Johannesburg. Awesome videos. Thank you. What 2D animation programs do you use? Also, at what point did you think, hey, I'm pretty good at this? Never. I never thought that, but we'll get into that. That was the last part of your question. I used to use Toon Boom for 2D animation. That's how I learned 2D animation. And I used it sort of at the beginning of my career, but then for my jobs, I started having to use After Effects. They didn't use Toon Boom, they didn't have the software. So I started having to use After Effects for like cutout animation and stuff like that. So that's the majority of what I use now. And at what point did I start to think I'm pretty good at this? Like I said, I mean, I have my moments, But for the most part, I'm very critical of the work that I do, and it's difficult, you know. I have quite bad imposter syndrome. So as much as people tell me my work is good, I look at it and I see a pile of steaming shit. So I see all the things that I still need to fix, and that is what I focus on, unfortunately. I mean, I can look at a thing and be like, okay, that's not bad. It's fine, it's pretty good, you know? And people can tell me that my stuff is good, and obviously I wouldn't be where I was if I wasn't good. Would I? Would I? Have I just been tricking people this entire time? Are people gonna figure out that I'm actually really shit at my job? No, it's fine, it's fine. I'm not gonna go down that rabbit hole now. That's for when I'm alone in bed at night, crying into my pillow. JK, but not really. But seriously, I'm very critical of my work. I know that I'm good at it because of where I've gotten, and I can see objectively that my work is good. But have you seen the work coming from other people, other animators in this world? Like, when I see the pure magnificence that other people produce, I can't look at my work and be like, that's good shit. You know what I mean? So I know I'm good at it because of where I am, and because people tell me it is, and because people want to give me money to do what I do. I have to be good at it, right? But in my own mind, in my own heart, in my own soul, I'm like, meh, I could definitely be better. What's your favorite cakes? That's a difficult question, man. I hate wasting chewing effort and calories on dry ass cake. So as long as the cake has a good flavor and it's not dry, I'm probably gonna like it. So my husband actually makes this amazing cake for my birthday every year. It's this salted caramel crumble layered cake. It's got like 6 layers on it, and he uses cream cheese for, you know, the frosting, and it's got salted caramel in it, and this delicious like cinnamon sugar crumble like in between the layers. That is definitely my ultimate all-time favorite cake. But any cake that has different layers and different textures, I'm usually super into. Who was your biggest inspiration for starting in art? And what do you do when you're not drawing or animating? My biggest inspiration? I don't know. I started drawing like when I was a tiny little creature. I don't know what my inspiration was then. I just liked to be creative. My greatest inspiration for storytelling and stuff like that when I was really little was probably the Calvin and Hobbes comics. I loved them so much. Bill Watterson, absolute genius. So that was definitely a big inspiration for me, and partly why I wanted to become a cartoonist or like a comic book artist was because of the Calvin and Hobbes comic. Any sort of movies, Disney. I was a 90s kid. I grew up watching, you know, like Recess as Told by Ginger, Real Monsters, DBZ, you know, when you get home from school, you sit down and you watch like all those shows in a row. I grew up on that stuff, and I really loved cartoons and animated stuff. I loved the Disney animated movies. It just took me into such a magical world. Another inspiration was my grandparents. I have some of the best memories doing creative stuff with them. Like my granddad, I used to sit and draw. You know, we'd have these drawing competitions where we would come up with a subject, and then we'd both have to draw them, and we'd get the rest of the family to vote on whose was the best drawing. And we had so many arguments about it, but it was always just so fun. That was some of the best times of my life. And going to art classes with my gran, we would go and paint pottery and do fabric painting and all sorts of stuff. And my other gran used to create these amazing cakes and also like beautiful fabric painting and pottery stuff. So that was definitely a big influence for me as well, to just love art and creating stuff, because it took me back to that happy time. So the other part of the question there was, what are you doing when you're not drawing or animating? So I'm either, you know, hanging out with my family or my friends. I've got a little boy, so I'm being his mom. Otherwise I'm reading, or I'm doing something else creative, usually like in my other spare time. I just love creating stuff. It makes me happy. So I get these obsessions, and I will spend every little second of spare time I can get focusing on whatever creative pursuit it is. For a while it was painting animal skulls. I had some that my friends gave to me that they weren't using, and some people in my family had some, and I took those skulls and I just painted them nicely, like, you know, decor for your home. But now that well of skulls has run dry, and I'm not gonna go out there and like shoot a poor little buck just for its skull. So I'm over that now. For a while I was making resin accessories and jewelry. I used to go to markets and sell them just for funsies because I made so many of them. What are you gonna do with so much useless crap? You just go and sell it. So, oh, actually, I made this butterfly necklace. That was one of the things that I made. So yeah, I wear them now sometimes. But you know, I just made a bunch of random stuff. At the moment, I'm working on a painting on this really nice piece of wood that I'm gonna hang up above our TV on our wall. So, you know, traditional painting, I love doing stuff like that. Anything with my hands, I just like making stuff. I'm making stuff at any given time. I'm actually going to start a new channel soon just for my various art projects. So if you want to check that out, I don't know, come back in a while once I've put up my first video and check that out. Okay, next question. Number 1, how is your day going? My day's going okay, thanks. It's been a little bit up and down, but it's good for the most part. Number 2, what is a mistake you will never repeat in production, or what was a hard lesson in production? I don't know, I haven't like done any major like fuck ups in production that have like stuck with me. There's obviously been those little things like when I first started out, I didn't really realize the importance of getting your render times down. So, you know, obviously making sure that each frame is not going to take several minutes if you've got, you know, over 1,000 frames to render. That was a really important thing that I had to learn. Also, just when I was younger, again, just not working with efficiency in mind, you know, working reactively rather than proactively, in the sense that you don't think about what might happen down the line that you might need to come back and change. So you're just going and making the most messy, disgusting comp ever because you're trying to work as fast as possible and you don't want to put time into organizing and thinking about the process in a way that it's going to be easy to go back and change things if you do need to. So you should really be working in a way where you can very easily change most of the stuff in your composition if you do need to. So things like that, just working with efficiency, I think that was something that I had to learn as well. But I did have somebody when I was younger, like a good mentor. We're still really good friends, we still work together, who helped me a lot. So I think he helped me avoid a lot of big fuck-ups in production too. He was a really good teacher. So yeah, that's all I can really think of. I don't have a big thing where I was like,
this is a lesson I'm gonna remember forever.
You know? Also, I just have a really bad memory, so it's possible something could have happened and I just forgot about it. It's been a few years. Number 3, what's your least favorite part in the process? Ugh. It's probably the very beginning planning stages, like storyboarding and stuff. I always just want to jump right in and start animating straight away, but of course you can't do that. You do know you can't do that, right guys? When I have to do like a bunch of stuff, I hate storyboarding, hate planning. I don't love rigging, and I don't love UV unwrapping and, you know, doing the UV mapping part of the things. How do you deal with stress at work? It's really hard sometimes. It does take a toll on me, and it is a very high stress environment a lot of the time. Certain things like just managing my time very carefully, making sure that I am taking some time away from my desk every once in a while, because you can get very entrenched and just sort of tunnel vision on the work that you're doing, and you're getting more and more anxious and stressed while you're sitting here, when you can just take like 10 minutes away from your desk and calm down a little bit, bring yourself back down to base level. I did actually make a video about this, about dealing with like stress and stuff like that in your job. So if you want to check that out, I'll put the link up in one of these corners, wherever it pops up, and then you can go check out that video too. What personal project are you working on? I don't know why, but I feel a little bit awkward talking about it. I made up this song, okay? It's a dumb song. It's not like a serious song. It's a stupid, dumb song. But I had to get it out of me. As a creative, you should know you get these things inside you and you have to get them out somehow. No matter what it is, no matter how it's going to turn out, you've just got to get it out. So I have the song. It's basically like an animated music video type thing to the song that I'm doing. I recorded the song, did the music. Now I'm busy just finishing up the animation on it. I'm not even sure if I'm going to make it public, to be honest. I'll just have to see. So that is my personal animation project that I'm currently working on. It's about a snail and a hadida who are friends. When you got into the industry, what was a hard pill to swallow about it? So a big thing for me was the excessive unpaid overtime. I understand overtime, obviously. I don't know what it's like in other industries, but here in South Africa, we don't really get paid for it unless you're a freelancer and you're charging per hour. So that was the thing that was difficult for me, especially when I was younger. You get so taken advantage of as a junior. There was this one stretch that I will never forget in my career. It was 3 months long, a 3-month project. I worked late every single night, barely saw my family. My boyfriend at the time, he's my husband now, I didn't get to see him at all. I saw him maybe like late on a Saturday night sometimes. So I was getting home like 2, 3 in the morning most nights. I was sick from being overworked. It was ridiculous. So stuff like that was very difficult for me to deal with, and it actually, at the time, it made me think that I really shouldn't be doing this as a career because it's not a sustainable thing. Obviously things got better as I got older, stopped working on that project, started advocating for myself a little bit, but the treatment of juniors in the industry can be pretty bad. Even now, people try really hard to get them to do a lot of work for very little pay, and it's something that I just am not a fan of, and I try to advocate against it and make sure it doesn't happen as much as possible where I can in my capacity. So that was definitely a hard pill to swallow for me. For the industry. Can somebody get a job at a big studio even if they didn't go to a big expensive art school? And as someone who has very little experience with animation, where can I start? Absolutely. In this industry, we're pretty lucky because as long as you have a dope show reel, if the work you show them is good, they don't give a shit about your degree or your qualifications or where you studied. They care about what you're going to be able to create for them. So if you're really good at animation, if you have a really good reel or a good portfolio, then it's fine. Don't worry about it. You don't need a degree. You don't need that big name art school behind you to get you a job. One thing you do need to consider if you're ever planning to immigrate, a lot of countries do want you to have a degree, like part of part of that point system that they rank you on whether they're going to actually let you come into the country and work is based on, you know, like your level of education and stuff, and a lot of them do want you to have a degree. This is something I looked into because, you know, for a while I was considering going to other countries to work overseas, and one of my problems was that I didn't have a degree. I've got a diploma. So you definitely can have a very good animation career without a degree, but you do need to consider other factors like immigration, or if you ever wanted to become an animation lecturer or a teacher, a lot of the time they do want you to have a degree for that. If you have very little experience in animation and you want to start, I would suggest starting with the Animator's Survival Kit. Every animator should have a copy of that in some form. I'll put a link to it in the description. It looks like this. Oh, it's so far. It's that book over there in my background. It's the Bible for animators. So start with that. It's going to give you a lot of, you know, the groundwork that you need for being a good animator, that solid foundation. I talk about your solid foundation a lot actually in some of my videos because it's extremely important. Then you just need to decide if you want to be a 2D animator or a 3D animator and learn the software for that basically. Learn the groundwork first, the basics, the principles of animation. It's extremely important. And then start looking at the software. Can I use Blender software on a laptop computer and create a short animation video? Please answer my question. You sure can. Obviously, you know, specs are important on your laptop. I don't know what specs you have on yours, but technically you can use Blender on a laptop with 4 gigs of RAM. I would not suggest it. You will tear your hair out. You'd need at least 16 gigs to use Blender properly and smoothly on your laptop. You can also use Blender on a laptop that has a 32-bit dual-core CPU, but I do again suggest you go a little bit higher than that. Use a 64-bit quad-core and a graphics card with 4 gigs RAM. And those are the specs that I would say you need at the very least. What are the qualifications should we have to be a freelancer artist? There are no qualifications that you have to have. Like I mentioned before, they're not looking at your degree if you want to be a freelancer, you know, they're looking at your portfolio, at the reel that you sent them, the examples of the work that you've already done. They care about the quality of the work you're going to be producing for them. They don't care about how many years you studied at college. Congrats on the 5K! You deserve it. Thank you. How do you find the animation industry in South Africa? Is there a lot of jobs/competition outside of freelancing? So, the animation industry in South Africa has definitely grown a lot, even in the last 5 years. Like, I've really seen it kind of shoot through the roof. There's a lot more interest in it. There are a lot more people putting effort into growing it and helping people within the industry. There is a fair amount of competition. There are a lot of people interested in animation now. There are a lot of new animators coming into the industry. I think it also, obviously it depends on your experience level. People who have been in the industry from the very beginning, like the super seasoned experts, don't have as much competition here because they were, you know, the first few people in the industry. Juniors now probably have a fair amount of competition. But the industry is definitely, you know, starting to thrive a lot. Unfortunately, also employment in South Africa is, you know, not at a good place. A lot of people struggle for jobs. Also, that does contribute to the level of competition. And it also means that a lot of people end up underquoting and competing in that way by lowering prices, which is not great for the industry. So that is something that isn't where we want it to be. We want people to be valued for what they can do. We want animators to know that their work is worth that time and knowledge and expertise that they're putting into it, and not underquote just to get jobs, because a lot of clients and studios do try to undercut animators and sort of play studios and animators against each other in regards to budgets and prices. In a nutshell, yes, there is a fair amount of competition. When 2D animating a fight scene, how important is it to have a choreographed reference for scenes just like that? P.S. Love your videos. I'm so glad you love my videos. Thank you. And yes, it is very important to have reference footage for fight scenes. It's important to have reference for anything you're animating really, but I mean a fight scene is so difficult with timing and body mechanics that you absolutely definitely do need reference for that. So even if you just need to like set your camera up on a table or something and just record yourself doing some of those scenes or something, get a friend to come in and just choreograph that fight scene and do it and get some reference, it is very important. Sometimes do you think you should leave the industry when under pressure? Yes. Yes, I do. Not as much anymore, obviously, because now I'm quite established in my career. I've been doing this for many years. So changing my career now, I don't think it would be fun. I like my career, I like animating, I like what I do, I like what it allows me to do. But it is a thought, you know, it's a thought that's there sometimes. I think they're common for a lot of people though. I think for people in any industry really do have those thoughts sometimes. You always wonder, you know, it's the whole grass is greener thing. You always wonder what it would be like doing something else. But I do genuinely love my job and I love what I do. What kind of animations did you do when you were starting out? What kind of programs or software and devices were you using to animate? Okay, what kind of animations did you do when you were starting out? Crappy ones. They were awful. They were embarrassing because I was starting out. I was a noob. It's fine. It is what it is. But yes, they were bad. I mostly did 3D because it was part of my coursework, but I also did 2D because it was part of my first year coursework. 2D and 3D, I both did those when I was first starting out. What kind of programs, softwares, and devices were you using to animate? Well, at college, we got computers and we got the software. It was Autodesk stuff, so we were using Maya, and we also used After Effects and Photoshop, obviously, for artwork and stuff like that. I had a laptop that I did my homework and stuff on. I can't even remember the specs or anything. It was a pretty good laptop. It wasn't like a totally low-end one. It was an HP. That's all I remember. It was an HP Pavilion something. I don't know. With animation being your day job, does the idea of watching animated movies or series afterwards make you want to throw up a little? It doesn't make me want to throw up. It's just that I have this weird reluctance to watch animated stuff. It's because it is related to my job. I went through this stage when I was 5 years in or something where I would look at anything 3D or animated, even real life stuff, and I would literally see the mesh on it and the wireframe, and I'd look at like the way a person moved and be like, how would I animate that? And just overthink everything so much and relate it to my job so much. So even now, if I watch an animated movie or a series or anything like that, I'm obviously thinking about all that stuff. But once I start watching them, I do get a lot of inspiration from them as well. I still love watching animated content. It's just that I do have some reluctance before I start watching. And my husband always jokes about it because he loves animated stuff and he always wants to watch like the latest animated movie or whatever. And then it's a thing of he has to sort of coax me into watching it with him. But of course it is because it's related to my job, even though I end up loving it. What are key steps you have to follow while modeling and how to make game ready pieces? Just off the top of my head, this is just a few tips, but there is more, obviously. Like I could make a whole video on this. So with modeling organic things like characters and stuff like that, topology, if you're going to be animating the character, is obviously extremely important. The way it's going to deform, where the edge loops go and stuff like that. So you must always make sure that it has good topology. Make sure when you're modeling that you're using reference because you want to make sure that the proportions and everything are good. You know, I see so many noobs just jump into it and start modeling a character and it looks whack, guys. It looks whack because you didn't use reference. Like they'll proudly say, this is my 3D model without reference. And you're like, yes, it's apparent that you did not use reference. Sketch out your character first in 2D, get it, you know, front pose, 3/4 pose, side pose, make sure all the proportions are right because it's a lot harder to fix when you get to the end of your model and you see that it looks a bit janky, so get reference. In regards to topology as well, quads deform better, so just, you know, try as much as you can to use quads instead of triangles on your characters if they're going to be animated. If you're modeling pieces for games, make sure that it's got a clean topology, make sure that there's nothing there that's unnecessary, make sure that it's as low poly as it possibly can be, make sure that the file is clean, there's no unused materials or nodes or anything there to bloat the file. Also combine meshes as much as you can. It's a real drag if you import something into your scene for your game and it's a car or something and there's a million different nuts and bolts and every little separate thing is a separate piece. So combine the meshes where you can. Obviously, if it's something that does need moving pieces, then those pieces need to be able to move independently. But on the whole, If things don't need to be separate, then don't leave them separate. Also, obviously, rely less on geometry and more on like the texturing and baking the details in. And also be careful with custom shaders that are not going to translate from your 3D program into your engine. Oh, and also if you're using modifiers in your 3D app, make sure that you collapse or apply them before you export the model, because the engine very likely won't support those same modifiers. So it's not going to work. It's going to look whack. Where do you see yourself in 5 years? Oh, that's difficult. Like some of the things, you know, that I would like are just not really possible on my current trajectory, but that's life, isn't it? You know, you can't live all your dreams. It would be super awesome to work on a series of some sort, either a kid series or even an adult series, an animated series. I would love to do that at some point in my life. Or even, you know, doing more of this on a more full-time basis, maybe like helping people, teaching people, maybe making a course and helping other people with their careers in animation. That would be really cool too. So I don't know. There are a lot of different things that I wish I could do in 5 years' time. I'm not one of those people that make like 5-year plans or anything like that. I would get disappointed. I just let life take me where it's gonna take me. Congrats on the 5K. Thank you. What would be your top places or cities in the world to live in to pursue a digital artist career? Well, Madrid seems really cool for animation. They've got a really big animation and gaming industry there. Seems like they've got a good climate. I find climate very important. I don't want to live in a super cold place. I come from Africa, so I need sunshine and heat. They also have the Tenerife Animation Festival, so you could always go to that. So they have a big industry there. Seoul in North Korea also has a booming animation and gaming industry there. They really love animation. They even built like an animation center there where they have viewing rooms and stuff like that. So that seems also like a really cool place to go. Otherwise, New Zealand, Auckland, that was a place that I looked at moving to a couple of years back as well. They have a really good industry there too, and it also seems like just a really nice place to live. I could be wrong, I've never been there, but those are the places that I have thought about and considered. Oh, also Vancouver, that was another place that seemed really nice. So if anyone lives in any of those places I've mentioned, maybe just comment and let us know, like, what's it like there? Is it a place that's worth moving to? Do you suggest other people who don't live there do move there to live and work there in the animation industry? Let us know, or if there are other places that I left out there. There are so many, I couldn't name them all. But yeah, let us know. So that's my video. Thank you everyone for sending in the questions. That turned out longer than I thought it would, so gold star if you're still here. What are you doing with your life? Like, do you have nothing better to do? I'm kidding. I'm so grateful. If you haven't done the subscribe thing yet, do it if you feel like it. It's fine if you don't. I don't know if you do or don't, so I'm not gonna like hold a grudge or anything like that. Hit the notification bell if you want to actually know when I upload new videos. Hit the like button otherwise if you don't want either of those other two commitments. Thank you as always to my incredible patrons. I've enjoyed chatting to some of you. Thank you for sending me your clips for feedback. You guys are dope. And I seriously do appreciate you. So thank you so much. Thanks for watching, guys. I'll see you next time. Love ya. Bye.